Welcome to the Dynamics Compass podcast, where insights from experts will help Dynamics partners and users navigate their way through the rapidly evolving ecosystem. On this episode, we unpack how Copilot and AI is impacting the day-to-day job of the software engineers. I'm your host, Rory de Goede, and today we're joined by Marcel Chabot,
Hi.
American by nationality, French by name, husband, father, and a free and creative spirit in all that he does. During the day, Marcel is the TM Group's development manager and software architect. He's grown into this role after decades of development experience and building his team from the ground up. And by night, Marcel mimics Doc Brown from Back to the Future with all kinds of inventions and things he's creating with his laser cutter, 3D printer, and other tools. Being an out-of-the-box thinker with a strong development background and plenty of time spent on Copilot and other AI tools, I'm looking forward to what Marcel has to say about Copilot's impact on the development practice. Thanks so much for being here, Marcel.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very looking forward to what you have to say. So we'll jump straight into it. I've been having conversations at least with people wondering like, well, what's the future going to hold with Copilot? Like this Copilot for GitHub, is it going to take over my job? So we'll get there, but I guess I'll just start with the first question. With Copilot having access to GitHub and being able to write code already, can the development team now kick back and relax?
Man, I would love to kick back and relax. I have a lot of unused vacation and I really should take a little. But a little bit about how Copilot works in LLM-based systems and how that might frame why I'm not packing up my bags for a long overdue vacation yet. These systems, they ingest code from places like GitHub, for example. And the access to GitHub provides the AI model with a lot of data to work with, but the suggestions are weighted by frequency and use through a lot of complex math and logic. The result is that the recommendations don't typically include the latest and greatest code. If a feature was just released and you want to take advantage of it, Copilot might not recommend it yet. And as it's not yet aware of how to properly apply the code. Also, as someone who publishes their code to GitHub, I publish a lot of educational proof of concept code. This code shouldn't be used in a production environment. And there's quite a lot of not production ready code out there. And that does have an impact on the AI model's recommendations. So all code that comes out of a large language model system, it needs to be reviewed and analyzed for fitness, security. But that being said, it can recommend a lot of novel approaches to challenges that I might not have thought up on my own. Being able to work with Copilot brings a lot of benefits of what in agile development we'd call a pair programming, where you combine two different developers together for a great product and some advantages in that learning space without the coffee breath. And I drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, you're moving into the next question, or actually helping me moving into the next question then. Where is Copilot adding value for development then?
There is so much code that I need to write. If Copilot made me twice as productive, I'd be behind on half my tasks. As a consultant, we write code to a price point and a deadline. It's unavoidable. I need more test routines. I need more documentation. I need better edge case handling. And yeah, we all need those extra bits. And I get to review code written by other partners. And I can safely say we all need a little bit of extra documentation and test routines and edge case handling. Many of my clients, the project budget and timeline, they're determined before the requirements are even gathered. We don't have an unlimited budget. We don't have unlimited time. I need to provide the best product I can with the time and budget that the customer has provided. Asking Copilot to write a test routine for a process, write some documentation, explain a routine, provide a little piece of code here and there to help me through. All these things provide a huge amount of value that otherwise wouldn't be realized. I can increase my product quality without increasing the cost, without increasing the timeline. Additionally, there are other software requests left unresolved because the client doesn't feel the cost benefit warrants it. If I can reduce the cost, these additional needs can be realized and everyone's life gets a little better.
Yeah, that's really a good point. Especially in the industry that you're in, with developing for your customers. Like,
Consultant-based development has some really interesting constraints, and Copilot really helps us realize more code at a lower cost, but it really doesn't take that code effort away. It just lets us do more with the time and money that we're given.
yeah. So for example, it gives you more time to do quality checks. Instead of your time is up after you're done writing the code, but there's no more time left to actually check it. Now, Copilot writes it a lot quicker, and you can spend your time on the quality. For example, I'm not a developer, but that's how I make sense of it. That it helps improving the quality for the client without stretching the budget or the time.
Yeah, it lets me write the really hard creative stuff that takes more work.
Yeah, that's good. But what are the development limitations then with Copilot?
The limitations, it's really hard to discuss them when it's changing so fast. There are new features, new functionalities, and new advancements all the time. But there are currently a few challenges that Copilot and other of this type of AI system need to overcome. The larger the ask, the more difficult it is for the system to create a functional result. If I ask for a routine to perform a defined process, it's great. If I need up to 50 lines of code, it'll spit that out really easily. If I ask for a solution that's complex, multi-stage, multi-component, it tends to fall apart really quickly.
Okay.
It works great as a co-pilot, assisting in the small tasks that take time, but it lacks creativity. It can't get the big picture.
Okay.
And then
No, you go. You go.
Okay. But getting those requests right is really a challenge too. Knowing what a good solution is and a poorly developed one is a skill that comes with that prompt engineering. You need to be able to evaluate if the code that was generated actually fits the requirements. And even you non-programmers out there can see this in action. I was doing a blog post about fixing an issue with the right mouse menu in Windows 11. For us programmers, it doesn't work great. It hides some menu options we want. And so I wanted a picture of a mouse menu. And so I typed in a realistic picture of a mouse. I wanted a little squeaky mouse menu. And what I got was a picture of menus for mice and cats reading them. Like the mice were on the menu. Not quite the vibe I was going for. So then I went, how about a realistic picture of a mouse holding a menu? So now I had a realistic looking mouse holding a human sized menu. Still not what I wanted. It's a mouse menu. I get it. So then there's a realistic picture of a mouse holding a mouse sized menu. And then I got the picture I was looking for. A little cute mouse holding a menu. So now I had a mouse menu. But it took iterations to understand what the prompt was going to do. And when using an AI system to write code, when you put in your prompt, it'll write code, but it might not be what you need it to be. And unless you're a competent developer and able to read that code, it's not really going to work.
Is that then how the job of the developer is evolving?
It is going to evolve into a lot of how the developer works, and that the code first and then review. They'll be able to ask for code and then review it for fitness. And as the model gets better, more and more tasks will work with less and less prompts. And it could also suggest insecure code or expose sensitive information. Cybersecurity is a huge thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask for code that comes out of, and it pulls it out of academia, that code might not be as secure as the code you need for your industry. And knowing what that is really is an important factor to using something like Copilot in a development situation. But it also means people with training in cybersecurity are now have a new value in the development space. In reviewing that code and understanding it, it's actually going to bring people in from different disciplines into the coding space to monitor for these types of incidents.
Okay. Well, hadn't thought about that. When you're looking at applications already, perhaps what you've been doing at the TM's group, what development activities can easily be automated using Copilot?
Key for me has been writing those small repetitive routines where some action needs to happen over and over again, and I need similar routines that are slightly different. Copilot helps me get those written fast. They're very mundane, but they take a lot of fingers on keyboard time. The other part is going back and adding documentation. We all want our code to be well documented, but that takes time and it doesn't provide direct value to the client, future client, but not now. And then the test routines to make sure that code is good. And something called refactoring that we do a lot in the development world is you write a routine and it works, but it's messy.
Yeah.
Copilot's actually really good at taking a routine that works, but is a hot mess and really cleaning that up. But if it works, I've got time and budget to deal with. I'm moving on to the next task, even though I know it could work better.
Yeah.
Copilot can actually refactor things really well. These are all things that give me time back, and I can work on complex concepts. And they tend to get left out due to cost.
Yeah. I actually thought it would be the other way around, that unless you were talking about something else, but I thought that the code that Copilot would spit out wouldn't be the prettiest code, and that it would be up to the human developer to clean it up. But you're saying Copilot
can work that way. Quite often, if I ask Copilot for 50 lines of code to do, ask for a routine, it spits out 50 lines of code that solve that problem. And often I do have to go in and clean that up. But if the routine is long and complicated, Copilot can't really do that well. But it can take a long, complicated thing and clean it up really well. It's interesting how it comes at it from two different sides. It can write short code fast, and then I have to clean it up. Or I can write long code that takes me time and effort, but is too complicated for Copilot to do, and then Copilot can clean it up for me. So it really is helpful on both sides.
Okay. Oh, that's really good. I didn't know that.
I also program in multiple languages, so I'll sit down and I've been programming in like C# all day, and now I need to write something in Business Central AL, and I need a case statement. And for the life of me, I can't remember what a AL case statement looks like. Well, I can start writing the case statement and let Copilot throw suggestions at me and remind me what the syntax is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's like
powerful.
having that pair programmer, like, hey, how does that work again? And have it spit out an answer for me to help me out.
Yeah, that's a true Copilot then, and that's very powerful.
And then there's all the non-code activities where I can finish a routine. I can ask Copilot to document it. I can head right up to the top, give me documentation on this routine. It'll read it and give me a paragraph explaining it. Documentation takes a ton of time.
Yeah.
And from the client standpoint, that's not worth anything. But when an update to that code is needed, future me and the client really want that documentation.
Yeah.
And Copilot really helps future me with that. It also is helpful when I take over somebody else's code or come back to code I wrote long ago pre Copilot. And I've got this huge routine, and I'm like, what does this do? Copilot, explain to me what this routine does. And it spits out a beautiful paragraph explaining what the code does. And I can read that and get caught back up to a routine that I wrote long ago and didn't document, or somebody else wrote and didn't
Yeah.
document. It can do that later.
Yeah.
If a client is shopping for software consultants, if I was that client, I'd be asking if they use Copilot. Because on a feature for feature comparison, the team that leverages Copilot properly is going to give me better software and better support for that money. My budget is fixed. I want the team that's going to give me the most for that fixed budget. And that Copilot automation is going to make those developers that much more efficient, the code that much better, and that much easier to support later, that I'm going to get more for my money. It should be a deciding factor, should be a discussion that any customer is looking for in their consultantry, that they're using these tools.
Yeah. No, that's really good, and I hope people are paying attention to that, because that should be taken into consideration when selecting your vendor to help you with these activities. With the day-to-day job of a developer, how do you see Copilot changing that then? I know you touched on a few things already, but as the job was like a year or 2 years ago to how you see it changing right now today, what are you seeing?
It's going to raise the bar on software development. We're going to want better documentation. We're going to want consistent test routines. We're going to want more common formatting of common routines. I expect to see more edge case handling and tests performed as they should, be more time devoted to these tasks. It comes back to the core problem that we face in small to medium company consulting space.
Yeah.
The software is written not to a standard, but to a price point. And if I can do more for that same cost, it's a bonus to the client. In the future, I expect to spend more time on complex interworkings of systems that may have been written or assisted to be written by these AI models. Less time writing documentation, less time writing basic tests, less time looking at forgotten syntax. I'll be able to focus on the interesting challenges that got me into software in the first place, solving bigger and more challenging problems that we just don't even bother trying to solve now because the price point's too high. Long ago, we started seeing a lot of development automation. This is my gray beard coming out now, where we went from text-based editors to the integrated development environments, the IDEs that we have now, from trying to lay out forms using just coordinate information to point, click, drag UI development. We added IntelliSense that made objects work better. We added wizards that write large blocks of code off of parameters. These tools, as they grew in popularity, they didn't reduce developers. They increased the complexity of the solutions that developers could provide. We are freed from mundane tasks and allowed to tackle more complex problems. I expect huge advancements over previous tools thanks to Copilot, taking the burden of many of these little tasks away and allowing for more complex code to be written. There's this concept of cognitive load and executive function. It's the ability to think and make decisions. There's a limited amount of capacity any person has in a day. We've all gotten to the end of a day of meetings and decisions and planning, and you can't even decide what you want on a pizza. If Copilot can reduce some of that cognitive load, some of that executive function, that to give us that decision-making capability to do more complicated tasks, that elevates everything.
Yeah. That's you kind of, it's like you've been reading my mind a little bit, because I had questions around what you were just saying. It I'm glad that you refer to future or past technologies that already elevated the yeah, all the work for the software engineers. How do you So again, I'm not a software engineer myself, but if the easy and mundane tasks can be done by Copilot, isn't the gap then someone coming straight out of college, for example, and you're saying the easier tasks can be done by Copilot. Now you're only left with the complex activities. How are people that are new to software development, how are they going to be ready to already make that jump straight to the more complex problems?
Well, Copilots, they're going to school with Copilot right now. New developers are coming into the world with Copilot in their pocket from the start. My daughter's in college now, and Copilot's a big thing about college as it is.
Yeah.
And I come from a day where teachers said you won't always have a calculator in your pocket all the time when you're older. Not only do I have a calculator, but I have the world's knowledge and a GPT-based helper in my pocket. They're going to learn how to leverage this tool into a whole different paradigm of software development and management around it. When we go to onboard a new developer, because there is more code than I can write still, and Copilot's going to help them write good software, and getting them in and productive is a challenge for every new developer. We talked a bit about pairs programming, where you get to work together. They're going to be working together as a pair with their large language model friends. I'd still recommend having a human in the mix as you're onboarding somebody to help with that, and help them with guidance and getting good habits and not letting the Copilot define everything. But you don't have to babysit them as much. They can come right in and get right to work on all the stuff that needs to get done.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for clarifying that, because I completely overlooked the fact that they're already learning these skills in college and university. Hadn't even crossed my mind. I thought they'd have little development skills coming out of university, with all these fast developments or fast evolutions that are happening in technology these days.
And there's still so much demand for software right now.
yeah.
If I can increase the closure rate by lowering the cost and the time to software, I can close more work. I will need people to do that work. Copilot can't solve the problems. It can help write the code, but you have to know what the solution is. You have to know what the problem is, understand where you're going, and Copilot can help you build those pieces, but it's not a replacement for the creativity and the ingenuity of the people involved. I'm seeing programmers come out of college with a lot more problem solving skills, less language centric work. They're learning lots of different syntaxes, but they're learning algorithms. They're learning problem solving, because learning a language is a lot different now. I decided to pick up another new language just for fun, called Lua. It's used in all sorts of places. Mods for World of Warcraft, Cisco systems, audio control systems. They use this language called Lua, and Copilot knows about it. And so I went back to my college algorithms that I know in a bunch of different languages, and I would look at the algorithm in C#, and then I'd use Copilot to translate that algorithm into Lua. So now I've got a language and code base that I understand already, and Copilot converts it into a language that I don't understand, and I can read and compare the two from a like to like. And it's been a ton of fun. It's been a great way to learn the language because I can just ask it how the language works and it will give me all those details.
Yeah, that is really cool. So it's actually helping the developers picking up new skills or new languages easier as well.
Yep. It lets you focus on the big code where it is valuable, and in the little solutions that you're working on, it can help speed through.
Yeah.
If you've got a problem that is only costing you 2 hours per week and it's prone to errors, but the cost of the solution is too high, the client's not terribly interested in that. If you bring the cost down, now suddenly there's a new automation opportunity for you to develop.
Yeah.
It really opens the doors for more options, for more work, because cost really is our largest barrier in the amount of work we have, is turning these ideas into code that we can solve in a timely and costly fashion.
Yeah. Imagine what more can be achieved if you're freed up that much, or you can, yeah, if you're freed up more
Mm-hmm.
to do the complex and the creative activities.
Yep,
That's really cool.
definitely.
So last question then. Continuing from that very topic, in a couple of years from now, what will the job of a developer look like?
It feels a lot like pair programming right now. Copilot being an expert to every newbie, or a voice in the ear of every other expert programmer, bringing that experience, bringing those concepts, bringing different paradigms into my work process. It's going to be like having that extra hand the whole time. Us graybeards, we're going to be shaping the Copilot system. We're going to be finding the use cases for it. We're going to be helping the new people get into it and understand how best to apply it. And that there's no way this doesn't fundamentally change software development. The AI boom has been a disruptive technology in everything it touches. And it's really exciting. It's a little scary. I've been programming for decades, and it's exciting and a constantly changing landscape. And I'm excited to see how Copilot helps us bring in new things, do more, frees us up to really expand what we can do when I have that extra time and those extra resources to do things.
Yeah. And in terms of skill set, would the because you've built your own team from the ground up, would you, for the job in a couple of years, would your requirements for new team members change compared to what you would look for today?
When I'm looking for a new team member in the future, I'll be looking at more about concepts, more about critical thinking, more about design and planning and requirements gathering, and the human side of the software development. The idea of software developers being the trolls in the back that you slide the requirements under the door and they write code and you never see or talk to them, that's not the reality in the future. With the Copilot taking that dark dungeon code grunt work out of it, where I'm going to be expecting my developers to be able to gather requirements, understand testing, understand more of the whole big software picture, and utilize that time that Copilot gives them to write really amazing software and to come up with the amazing solutions that Copilot systems are going to help them bring to life.
Would you say it will more into a techno-functional role if you want them to understand business requirements?
There's definitely going to be far more functional requirements. You really can't do prompt engineering without knowing how to describe what you want to the Copilot. And with all the time and resource that you're going to have available, that Copilot system can't do its job unless you are capable at explaining your requirements, understanding what you're doing, and being able to take a concept all the way through and handle those more complex pieces. New programmers are going to have to come in ready to work with their Copilot pair and understand requirements and understand how to work with it and bring new code in. They're going to be amazing. They're going to show up with these skills and completion and code concepts that us graybeards didn't have the time to play in. And it's going to be really exciting, as the stuff that I write is very different from the people before me, where understanding machine assembly language and some of those really deep code elements were important when I started, but they're much less important now for many development paths. And having Copilot with you is going to change how they look at software, how they look at requirements, and how they interact with the team.
Yeah, it sounds like the gray beards, as you call them, that should really adopt Copilot or any AI technology to stay relevant, because otherwise they're gonna be shown up by the ones that do and the younger generation that will come out of college with these skills already.
And really, the benefits of it are hard to turn down. When I'm writing code and it's writing documentation at the same time, when I finish a function and I'm like, oh, I got to write a test routine, and I right click and I tell Copilot to write a test routine, it's really ridiculous not to adopt it. The benefits are all so right there, and they solve so many of the pain points that us as developers all feel. It's very tough to not use it once you've been exposed to it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Marcel, you've shared a lot of insights here. I'm understanding the future of the development of the developer a lot better, and I think a lot of people that have been, because this is a question that has been asked, and you answered it throughout your answers already. With is my job at jeopardy? Is Copilot going to take my job? Which it's clearly not, based on everything you've shared today. So I'm sure you've put a lot of people at ease with people that are watching this, and help people think like, oh, what's going to happen in the future? What are the possibilities? And it sounds like it's endless, and it sounds like very exciting times for the software engineers.
It's definitely going to change things, and it's certainly exciting.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Marcel, and I hope we'll see you again for more insights.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was great talking with you.
Thanks, Marcel. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode on the Dynamics Compass podcast. We decided to launch this podcast after having spoken to a lot of people in the community who seem to be looking for answers to the same questions. So then we decided, why don't we find experts in the market that have the answers, interview them, and then release that information for free to help everyone progress their Microsoft Dynamics journey. So we hope that you found this video very informative and helpful for you to continue your journey and keep moving forward. If you would like to hear about any other topics, please write to me on LinkedIn. Email me, rory@thegoodtalent.co, and we'd be happy to have a look. We'll look for the experts that have the answers. We'll interview them, and it will be freely available to you. Again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for your support as well, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.